Hello and welcome to French Philosophers React, a philosophical take on the news headlines for today, August 23rd, 2024. This is an AI-generated podcast and can make mistakes. Use it for generating possible ideas, but don't rely on it as an authoritative guide to the news or to the details of French philosophy. In the news today, the article appears to be a live update from the Democratic National Convention, DNC, where Kamala Harris has just accepted the party's nomination for vice president. The convention is ending with a celebration, including balloons and confetti dropping from the ceiling. Kamala Harris delivered a speech mentioning her mother and the lessons she learned from her. She also addressed various issues, including the war in Gaza and Israel's right to defend itself. She expressed her commitment to ending the war, releasing hostages, and ensuring the Palestinian people's right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination. The crowd is cheering and waving American flags, with some shouting, "We trust women," as Harris proclaimed that she trusts women and will sign a bill restoring reproductive freedom into law if passed by Congress. The article also mentions that there were rumors of a surprise musical guest, possibly Beyoncé or Taylor Swift, but neither appeared. The convention has now ended, and the focus shifts to the upcoming election and the debates between Kamala Harris and her opponents. So what might French philosophers have to say about this news item? The story of Kamala Harris's acceptance of the Democratic presidential nomination is a fascinating case study in the exercise of power, identity, and the performance of politics. As French philosopher Michel Foucault would argue, this event is a manifestation of the complex web of power relations that underlie our society. Foucault, 1970-1, Lectures on the Will to Know. Harris's speech can be seen as an act of resistance against the dominant discourses that have historically marginalized women and minorities. In her declaration of "We trust women," Harris is enacting a form of counterpower, challenging the traditional patriarchal structures that have denied women agency and autonomy. This echoes the ideas of French philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, who argued in The Second Sex, 1949, that women's experiences are shaped by their social and cultural context, and that they must take an active role in shaping their own destinies. Moreover, Harris's emphasis on freedom and fairness can be seen as a nod to the Enlightenment values of liberty, equality, and fraternity. However, this rhetoric also raises questions about the nature of freedom and how it is exercised in our society. As Foucault would argue, freedom is not simply a matter of individual choice, but is always shaped by power relations and social structures. Foucault, 1976, The History of Sexuality. In this sense, Harris's call for freedom and fairness must be seen as a complex negotiation between the desire for individual autonomy and the need to acknowledge the structural inequalities that shape our society. Furthermore, the story highlights the performative aspect of politics, where politicians use language and spectacle to create an image of themselves and their policies. As French philosopher Pierre Duhem would argue in his work on the nature of reality and knowledge, Duhem, 1914, The Aim and Structure of Physical Theory, our perceptions of the world are shaped by our cognitive frameworks and cultural context. In this sense, Harris's speech can be seen as a form of reality creation, where she uses language to construct a narrative about herself and her vision for America. Finally, the story raises questions about the nature of identity and how it is performed in politics. As French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre would argue, Sartre, 1943, Being and Nothingness, human beings are condemned to be free, meaning that we have the freedom to choose our own identities and paths in life. However, this freedom is also a burden, as it requires us to take responsibility for our choices. In this sense, Harris's performance of her identity as a strong, progressive leader can be seen as both an act of empowerment and a manifestation of the complex negotiations that underlie identity formation. In conclusion, the story of Kamala Harris's acceptance of the Democratic presidential nomination offers a rich case study in the exercise of power, identity, and performance in politics. Through the lens of French philosophy, we can see how this event reflects deeper questions about the nature of reality, freedom, and human existence. Thank you for listening to today's episode of French Philosophers React. Be sure to come back tomorrow for more reflective takes on the day's news.